Steady up. The town of Hinton respectfully acknowledges that it is located on the First Peoples traditional lands. We recognize this traditional territory to show respect and understanding to those who walk this land since time immemorial. Today, we uphold our ongoing responsibility to work together in the spirit of the intent of the treaties with all the First Peoples and nations that call this place home. The town expresses gratitude and for the opportunity to build a better community on these sacred lands for generations to come. And with that, we will call this regular council meeting for May 21st, 2024 to order. Adoption of the agenda. Council, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda this evening? Administration, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda this evening?
No additions from administration.
Thank you. Secretary, is there a list for meeting with council this evening?
Yes, there is through to the chair, Mr. Bill McDonald and Miss Kate Cardinal.
Thank you, Secretary. Council. Councillor Hawes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move that we adopt the regular agenda for regular council meeting agenda for May 21st, 2024. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hawes. Council, the motion on the floor is that council adopt the agenda as presented. Any discussion? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question. Is that going to come up on our, there we go. Councillors, please vote now. That motion is carried unanimously. Next item on the agenda is council minutes for adoption. Councillors? Councillor Chambers.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the council minutes for the special council meeting of April 23rd, 2024, the regular council meeting of May 7th, 2024, and the committee of the whole meeting, May 14th, 2024, as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Chambers. Council, the motion on the floor is that council adopt the minutes from the special council meeting, April 23rd, 2024, the regular council meeting, May 7th, 2024, and the committee of the whole meeting, May 14th, 2024. Any discussion? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question. Councillors, please vote now. And that motion is carried unanimously. This brings us to Citizens Minute with Council. Minute with Council provides an opportunity where residents can address council regarding issues, events, celebrations, or concerns. To ensure a constructive and welcoming environment, please adhere to the following guidelines. Keep your remarks concise, limited to 1 minute. Address the chair of the meeting when speaking to council. Avoid asking questions as this is not a Q&A, and maintain a respectful tone and language. First on the list, we have Mr. Bill McDonald. Please, Mr. McDonald, take a seat, state your name for the record, and take your minute.
Hello, Council, Mayor. My name is Bill McDonald, okay, right? First of all, I like to say it's awesome, okay, right? The Recreation Department, okay, has fixed the weight limit on the pool within 1 week. Okay, however, okay, right, we have a recreation guide, okay, that's down at the recreation center, and the new one has not been put out yet. And this is in a week. Okay, so we have new recreation activities coming up in front of you. Okay, and the guide is not out. There's no advertising online. Okay, we have 1,900 people, okay, that sit on the social media page just for the Recreation Department. Then we've got the Town of Hinton's Facebook page. And I question why this information has not been put out. We have some great new activities this year out there. We've got 1 week before the rec center gets them going. I still question why it takes these activities to be going a month after the ice is being taken out. I've been told that's because of maintenance. I've been down there. I'm not seeing any maintenance at all. So I question that as well. Okay, at the end of this, I think what the issue is here is the communications department. The communications department the department's not talking to each other, getting the information out. And I'm hoping that maybe we can get something resolved by this, because we've got some great activities in there and we need them marketed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. McDonald. And thank you for bringing the recreation guide to our notice. Next up, we have Miss Kate Cardinal. Ms. Cardinal, please take a seat, state your name, take your minute.
Thank you. This is my tobacco offering. It's traditional to offer tobacco when you are sharing. So I'd like to share a prayer. And I thank you for honoring our traditional territory. Hi, Creator, for your love and guidance from our hearts to honor and respect our beautiful gifts of Mother Earth and all creation for all generations to come. Hi. I'd like to share with you a dream I had. It was about a giant poplar which crashed down beside me. I could see he was sobbing. I tried to comfort him as he wept deeply. He told me a story as I sat with him of long ago when the water was pure and the birds sang happily. There was lots of good food for everyone. Life was good and the forest was happy. Then one day, the machines came and he watched in horror as all his friends and children were murdered. He heard the screams of all the birds, squirrels, rabbits in forests as they died and their homes were destroyed. The pain and anguish stayed with him all his long life, often wishing he had been taken too. As he started to feel better, the two-leggeds came again and sprayed something horrible. It killed more life. It weakened him, and his heart broke again. He became very sick and fell before me this day. He asked that I share his story, the life of a tree. Hi. I just returned from a funeral on the prairie. And as I drove across the prairie, unlike here, there was no bugs. I saw one moth. All the trees have been cleared for crops. There were 2 mallards. That's all I saw. There were very few birds in the ponds, no bees, no deer until I reached one wooded area. For hours and hours, there was nowhere for them to live. This forested area that I approached where I saw the 2 deer finally, after hours of driving, is also being cleared. As a child, the ponds were full of birds, waterfowl everywhere, tadpoles, frogs, salamanders. The caterpillars and butterflies, bugs and birds were everywhere. 28 countries have now banned glyphosate due to the death and destruction it has proven to cause. We must move to preserve our forests and soils for all future generations and to honor Mother Earth by banning glyphosate as well. As I drove through Edmonton, I was shocked to see so many people on the boulevards and street corners begging. They all had their signs asking for food or a handout of some sort. And now the visible population is roughly 70% newcomers. So we're seeing great changes in this land with this new government. The Municipal Government Act provides governments considerable autonomy for you to protect your citizens and environment. We ask you to help us now. Hi.
Thank you, Ms. Cardinal. And that will bring us to delegations and presentations. And we have Ms. Debbie Rabel for speaking on the FCM ICLEI program. Hello, Ms. Rabel. Just a moment. We're going to get that microphone turned on.
I don't,
There we are.
I got a green light. Can you?
You're good now.
Okay.
Thank you.
My name is Debbie Rabel. And good afternoon, esteemed Mayor Nissen.
Listen, yes, thank you, ma'am.
Esteemed Mayor Nissen, Town Council. I'm grateful for this opportunity to show a video entitled Restoring Local Agenda over Global Agenda, and to share a different perspective on the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, or the FCM, International Council of Local Environmental Initiatives, ICLEI, Climate Protection Program, and that's a big mouthful, so from here on in, I'll just say the FCM, ICLEI PCP, Climate Protection Program. The town partnered with this program May 2019. I'm here to request that the town of Hinton reassess its public-private partnerships with UN-affiliated organizations such as the FCM and ICLEI, which undermine our local sovereignty. The FCM Municipal Primer, which the town signed on to in 1994, and I emailed everyone a copy of that, is a United Nations directive. The cover sheet, pages 8 and 9 are very clear. Both the FCM and ICLEI are arms of the octopus known as UN Agenda 21. And that's on pages 8 and 9 of the municipal primer that Hinton signed on to. So ICLEI's Partners for Climate Protection Program involves 5 milestone framework of completing a greenhouse gas inventory, forecasts, developing a local action plan, implementing the plan, and monitoring progress and reporting results, all aimed at reducing or offsetting greenhouse gas emissions to 0 by 2050. And it's to cut those in half by 2030. So the PCP website map shows the town of Hinton has completed milestone 1. Although it appears the town of Hinton is not actively engaged in the milestones at present, the PCP is embedded in the town of Hinton's strategic plan. So sustainable development goals, and sustainable development means a whole lot different to the UN than what we think it means. They divert public funds like our local Hinton taxes and local assets to private development purposes and foreign investors, all under the guise of saving the planet. Additionally, municipal staff, committees, councils will need to allocate their time and wages to analyze, report, review, endorse, and implement UN directives. Our local government should focus on local initiatives, not international, global, in my opinion, things. So the disadvantages of Agenda 21 are targets privacy, mobility, property, water rights, and energy security, limits subdividing large tracts of land based on arbitrary provincial mapping, drives population growth to specific settlement areas, reduces population growth in smaller municipalities, reduces tax revenue and services in smaller municipalities, increases population in larger municipalities, leading to housing, healthcare, homelessness, mental health, crime, and drug addiction crises. So the PCP does not align with Canadian values and lifestyle. It's an international one-size-fits-all program, and it does not allow for energy security or energy options, taking into consideration our long, cold Canadian winters. There is support in our community for the town of Hinton to leave and to actually withdraw their membership with the ICLEI PCP. I've gotten several signatures here on a little resolution, and I can leave those with you. And so as you watch this video, there's 3 things I'd like you to please keep in mind. Hinton and Canada are already net zero. With our boreal forest, our large land mass, large water bodies, small population, we are net zero. CO2 is not a pollutant. They pump it into greenhouses so the plants grow better. The FCM and Government of Canada do not bear any responsibility for the program, leaving council members solely responsible for its endorsement and implementation. Should there be any harms caused by this PCP, such as property owners losing their homes, their land, water rights, etc., council members could be held liable because there's nobody else taking responsibility for the program, and it's right in the program. It says that FCM and Government of Canada take no responsibility for the program. So it's, anyway, partnership in this program was voluntarily entered into, and the town of Hinton can leave at any time. So together we can reclaim our autonomy and safeguard the future of our community. Let's please prioritize localism over globalism. And this video can be played. Kickley is kicking out Ickley out of Minnesota. So, who would I leave these resolutions with?
You can just bring them up to me.
Withdrawing from the program is as easy as just notice of motion withdrawing. And it's Kickley that is a movement going across Canada. There's several municipalities that are pausing, putting money into NGOs, which is pausing, having a look at what it's all about. Some have withdrawn, and if you go on the Kickley, there will be a website, Kickley Canada, but now just Kickley.com. But if you just put in Kickley without the K, K-I-C-L-E-I, Canada, you'll come up with that, I guess it's a grassroots movement to just make people aware how the UN has snuck into our local municipalities, and they're really calling the shots all across Canada. And it's against our Canadian lifestyle. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rebel. And council, is there any questions for the presenter? Councillor Taylor.
The question would be to administration. Are we actively working on this program that council voted for, I believe you said in 2019?
Acting CEO McLaughlin.
Through the chair to all of council, we did do a review of the previous motions. Council does have 2 motions on file related to what she was speaking about, but I wouldn't say that that we have administration working directly on this initiative at all.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. McLaughlin. Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Council, is there anything further for our presenter this evening? Thank you very much, Ms. Rebel, and thank you for your entourage as well for coming and supporting. And council, that will take us to section 6 of the agenda today, action items, and item 6.1, AB Muni's resolution, rural healthcare professionals attraction and retention strategy. Acting CEO McLaughlin.
Thank you, and I'll put this one through to Deborah Juke.
Thank you, Ms. Duke.
Thank you, and through the chair to the rest of council. This item is presented today with an attachment, which is the finalized version of a draft AB Muni's resolution to be proposed by the town of Hinton at the convention in the fall. Council had directed this resolution be developed a few months ago, and most recently reviewed the draft in April. At that time, some comments from committee were provided, as were some comments from the AB Muni's resolution committee itself to us, comments and some requests for clarification. At the same time and concurrently, we were contacted by the village of Boyle, which is a small village of municipality of 827 people, as offering to second this motion, which would be compliant with the current AB Muni's resolution requirements. And so we present the finalized version for your adoption tonight, or your consideration for adoption tonight. It's attachment to the report, and we recommend that the resolution be approved as presented. If it is approved, it will be forwarded on to the AB Muni's by the end of the week. Thank you. I'll take any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Ms. Duke. Councillor Magoon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have a question. I'd like to make the recommended action. The council approve the town of Hinton's AB Muni's resolution, rural healthcare professionals attraction and retention strategy as presented. And then just speaking to it briefly, I think this is an important piece of advocacy on behalf of Alberta municipalities, especially those of us in rural areas. Again, positively reaching out to our partners at the provincial level to say that this is quite a serious issue for us. And I have no doubt that this will receive widespread support at AB Munis in the fall. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Magoon. Council, the motion on the floor is the council approves the Town of Hinton's AB Munis Resolution Rural Healthcare Professionals Attraction and Retention Strategy as presented. Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, I'm looking at the 1, 2, 3, 4th whereas, and it just says increasing the number of healthcare professionals. And that got me to thinking, would it be problematic to add the words keeping and increasing healthcare professionals? Because it's equally as important to keep what we've got in addition to increase. So I think a comprehensive strategy would have both. I'm free to amend this if I want, am I?
Ms. Juke, are there consequences to us amending this at this time? I believe the Council of Boyle is going to put on a special council meeting to approve this. So
Thank you through the chair to the rest of council. That's correct. They will be, and they had no requests for amendments. This is already slightly changed from the version that they saw last because we have incorporated some of the resolution committee's comments and requests for clarification. So a minor change in that way won't, I don't think, affect Boyle's decision to wish to second.
thank you, Ms. Juke. Carry on, Councillor Taylor.
Okay, well, I'd like to add the word keeping and increasing, the word keeping and to the 4th whereas, if I, as an amendment, please. So whereas a cohesive provincial strategy focusing on keeping and increasing the number of healthcare professionals in rural Alberta critical to ensuring stability and equity in Alberta's healthcare system. So I think we're missing half of what we want to do is and keeping.
Would the word maintaining work for your perspective? It probably
Is it in-
suits the document a little bit better than keeping.
Sure, that's fine too.
Okay.
Is that already in there?
It's not, no.
Okay. Well, then I whether it's maintaining is fine, maintaining and increasing.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Taylor. So council, the motion on the floor is an amendment to amend the wording of the AB Muni's motion where it currently states, whereas a cohesive provincial strategy focusing on increasing, it will now read, whereas a cohesive provincial strategy focusing on maintaining and increasing the number of healthcare professionals in rural Alberta. Jen, we're going to need to get that amendment up on if you get there.
Through to the chair, would you like the motion to read as amended?
No, he wants to amend this motion, right?
Correct. This is Councillor Magoon's original motion.
This is the original motion. We need to vote on Councillor Taylor's
the
amendment.
amendment.
The amendment is to add the wording to maintain and increase the number of healthcare professionals.
Yes, that's correct. But I'm just asking, my question is, would you like the motion to read as amended? It's been captured by Ms. Juke.
We have to put the amendment up first, though. The original motion is not yet amended. Okay, council, the motion on the floor is an amendment to the original motion that has us adding the word maintaining to the fourth whereas condition, and we'll go for discussion. Counselor Ostashik.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a question for administration and then possibly a comment. My understanding is that the proposed resolutions have to go to Alberta municipalities for approval of the wording of them. Has this been to Alberta municipalities and have they approved this? And if so, how would this change affect their approval of this being moving forward?
Ms. Juke? Or Mr. McLaughlin?
Through the chair to all of council. Yes, we took our draft, we sent it to Alberta Munis, we received comments back from them. We've made changes before bringing it to you here tonight. Any further changes, we won't be able to run through them. They will have a read of it. If they had any major problem with it, I'm sure they would phone us and we would make any minor change. But we do have the deadline of the end of the month to have this in, and so there would not be time to return it to council. And we would just, as administration, have to resolve any issues that would come up with it. But this minor change, I don't see a problem with.
Thank you, Mr. McLaughlin. Follow up?
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Stashik. Counselor Race?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't want to be anal here, but to me, it should read, and I can hardly see that, focusing on increasing and maintaining the number. But I could be just being a little picky. We want to increase our numbers and we want to maintain. So.
Thank you, Counselor Race. I would ask Counselor Taylor his thoughts on the ordering of that wording, his amendment. Counselor Taylor?
Well, saying the wording's perfect, but the intent is to maintain the existing staff while trying to increase the number of healthcare professionals in rural Alberta. So that's the intent. Is that not clear to people?
Counselor Magoon?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm certainly supportive of the amendment. To Councillor Race's concern, I mean, it's just a simple conjunction of and. It doesn't denote importance of one or the other. That would be my thoughts. I hesitate getting too much deeper into this in terms of modifications, but I think this is a pretty safe, simple one to make. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Magoon. Ms. Juke?
Thank you. Through the chair to the rest of council. I think we might be getting up a little bit of a dead end here because one of the problems we're having is that the motion originally was to approve as presented. Whereas the second potential option for council would be to approve as amended. You're making an amendment, which is great, but the initial motion will then not work. So I'm just suggesting that perhaps the better route is to withdraw the initial motion and then simply make the second one where you're approving it as amended and your amendments are being quite clear to us here. Just an observation.
Thank you, Ms. Juke. Counselor Ostashik?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate all the input and thoughts and opinions from everyone, but it sounds like this is getting a little bit more challenging to move through. To me, it's a bit of a question of semantics, though. Increasing the number, it carries an implication that we're maintaining the number. If it's increasing, it's obviously maintained. Unless Councillor Taylor's intent was to retain the particular staff that are here, which I think would be extremely challenging. Medical staff have a tendency to be able to need and want to move to wherever they're most needed and where it could be best for them. And I think the intent is if a certain individual moves, that they're replaced by a different one. So for me, I think it's okay the way it is without having to go through the exercise of withdrawing motions and making new motions and approving amendments. And I think maintaining is included with increasing, so I'm fine the way it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Ostashik. Counselor Taylor?
Yeah, I agree with you.
Thank you, Counselor Taylor. If there's anything further, we can vote on the amendment. Seeing nothing further on the amendment, we'll call the question on the amendment that That's going to have to come up. The amendment to add maintaining and increasing to whereas a cohesive provincial strategy focusing on maintaining and increasing the number of healthcare professionals in rural Alberta is critical to ensuring stability and equity in Alberta's healthcare system. Councillors, please vote now. And that motion is defeated 6-1 with Councillor Race voting in favor. Council, that brings us back to the original motion, which is that council approves the Town of Hinton's AB Muni's resolution, rural healthcare professionals attraction and retention strategy as presented. Any further discussion? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question. The council approves the Town of Hinton's AB Muni's resolution, rural healthcare professionals attraction and retention strategy as presented. Councillors, please vote now. And that motion is carried unanimously. Council, is there anything further for item 6.1 our agenda this evening? Seeing nothing, we'll move to item 6.2, Athabasca Avenue Business District Safety Improvements. Acting CAO McLaughlin.
Yes, through the chair to all of council. What we're presenting tonight here is the Athabasca Avenue Business District traffic safety improvements. This was presented at committee to do a number of modifications. And then we went out to the public and got feedback. And after getting the feedback, we're now recommending that we just add additional 30-kilometer-an-hour speed signs and some additional directional arrows as the completion of the safety improvements without doing everything that was in the suggested plans that went out to public input. Council was in favor of this at committee, and we're just looking to pass the motion at regular council.
Thank you, Mr. McLaughlin. Councillor Hawes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to make the motion that council accept the public consultation of Athabasca Avenue Business District Safety Improvements for information and accept administration's plan to complete 30 kilometers per hour speed signs and directional arrow painting as the completion of the safety movement or improvements. If I can speak to it.
Go right ahead.
So yeah, I mean, I appreciate the community giving their input and bringing back these measures to make this area safer. I think we'll complete what is necessary. I do have one quick question though for administration in regards to the directional arrows. Being as how in our winter months, those are not visible. Is there adequate signage for directional area or arrows down there as well? Or is that going to be part of potentially the addition of signage along with the 30-kilometer ones?
Mr. McLaughlin.
So we already did make some improvements of adding some wrong way signs and some additional signage to try and improve people who aren't familiar with the area so they're aware. We did hear at committee that there may be a need for one or two more, slightly more, which can easily be done with our normal signing programs. So I don't think that this would finalize it because we have made quite a few improvements in that regard.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McLaughlin. Thank you, Councillor Hawes. Councillor Magoon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And so, you know what, I think Mr. McLaughlin, I just need to confirm, I think you started to answer it there. So if, as we move forward, we're finding that some of the wrong way signs or the arrow signs that go in, if they're a little smaller or we feel like they're not getting recognized, is that part of the regular sign maintenance that they can be expanded or enlarged to be more visible?
Mr. McLaughlin.
Yes, that's correct. We'll follow up with that one comment from committee and see where the concern was to address that specific one.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. McLaughlin. Thank you, Councillor Magoon. Councillor Race.
Thank you, sir. I will support this motion. I do have a couple questions. How many people were part of the survey or responded?
Mr. McLaughlin.
Just give me one quick sec while I review that. Yeah, I don't have that in front of me. I'll have to, I'd have to get back to you on that answer, but I could email that to you.
Thank you. And I just have two more.
Go ahead.
How large will the directional arrows?
Mr.
Are
McLaughlin?
they going to be a lot larger than what we are seeing?
Through the chair to council, what we're talking about is, it'd be a pretty standard, size arrow, but we're talking, about painting on the pavement, the direction of, travel.
Right. And are they going to be large? Or
Yeah, I wouldn't have the measurement in front of me, but I would say probably a couple of meters.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, fairly large.
And is the color going to be a fluorescent color or something other than white?
No, through the chair, they would be white.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McLaughlin. Thank you, Councillor Race. Council, the motion on the floor is that council accept the public consultation of Athabasca Avenue Business District Safety Improvements for information and accept administration's plan to complete 30 km/h speed signs and directional arrow painting as the completion of the safety improvements. Is there any further discussion? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question. Councillors, please vote now. That motion is carried unanimously. Council, is there anything further for item 6.2 on the agenda this evening? Seeing nothing, we'll move to item 6.3, Pool Slide Capital Project. Acting CEO McLaughlin.
Yes, and I'll pass this one on to Deborah Juke, Director of Community Services.
Ms. Juke?
Thank you. And through the chair to the rest of council, this project was first approved in 2023, but was carried forward into 2024 due to the fact that the survey of the deck had to take place during shutdown in late September 2023. The project was again reviewed at the May 14th, 2024 Committee of the Whole meeting, at which time administration updated committee that the approved budget was insufficient to deliver the project. There's several reasons for that. I'll just go over them one more time. Cost increases are due to budget being needed to assess the pool deck to ensure it could support the slide. Higher cost of installing the concrete base for it than was expected. And my apologies, the report accompanying this is still referencing mud jacking, which is not taking place. We're simply pouring a pad. Increases to the cost of the slide itself since quotes were first obtained in kind of mid-year 2022. And the need to allow some contingency for whatever might be encountered when the deck is opened in order to pour that concrete pad. Contingency is $9,000, and I'll just comment as well further that funding will not be used unless there is something that needs to be done once we open up the deck. Administration is ready to complete the project during pool shutdown in September this year, provided that additional budget is approved. So a total of additional $38,748 is being requested. And this breaks out again, 7,900 or about 8,000 for the pad, 9,000 for contingency, and the remainder for the increases to the cost of the slide. Budget is available in the facilities and components reserve, which was the original location for the budget to be pulled from. However, I believe the town is intending to apply for MSI funding or some other grant funding to replace the whole cost of this project back into the reserve if possible. So with that, I'll take any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Ms. Juke. Councillor Magoon.
Thanks. I think there's a lot of really good information in that report. It's nice to get a report like that where, there's things they line up quite nicely. Additionally, thank you very much for the pictures that were included on page 2 of the report. Actually, I think my mental image of what I thought the slide might look like versus what it does look like, again, very helpful. So with that, I'd like to make the recommended action. The council approve an additional budget of $38,748 for the pool slide capital project and direct administration to complete the project in 2024 or as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Magoon. Council, the motion on the floor is that council approve an additional budget of $38,748 for the pool slide capital project and direct administration to complete the project in 2024 or as soon as possible. Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you to administration. I see the question I had about the additional operating with the lifeguard attendants that's not required. So thank you for that, answering that question. I kind of wish I would have had this question in committee, but it came to me in between. I'm wondering about insurance wise for adding this type of apparatus. Is that going to change our insurance rates or anything like that? And the reason I reference that is because, you know, I look at other facilities have like trampolines and things like that. The insurance rates skyrocketed, but I'm just the climbing and the possibility of slipping. Any comments on that?
Ms. Duke?
Thank you. And through the chair to the rest of council, it's a great question. Thank you. I don't believe there will be any additional insurance implications. It's a routine sort of amenity to have in a pool. It's already wet and slippery there, and I don't anticipate that this will trigger any increases in costs for that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Duke. Thank you, Councillor Haas. Councillor Chambers.
Thank you through the chair. I just wanted to say thank you for the clarity in the report. I think, again, all of what was brought back from our discussions at committee was very clear. So definitely appreciative of that. And I think that in general, this is just a good thing to do. It goes in line with the conversations that we had about continuing to utilize the recreation center that we currently have and not just focusing on what's down the road. So I certainly support this motion as it is, and definitely hope that we're able to push for the 2024 project completion. I think it's a great thing for the community.
Thank you, Councillor Chambers. Councillor Race.
Thank you, sir. I will support this motion. I'm very happy that you've come back with additional information on who can ride this slide. Looks like I'll be able to ride it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Race. Councillor Taylor.
Will we be asking the Kinsman Club for their $10,000? And if no, why not?
Ms. Duke.
Thank you. And through the chair to the rest of council, we are going to be requesting that, and we anticipate being able to refund that back to the municipal coffers when it is received in about 18 months.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Duke. Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Council, the motion on the floor is that council approve an additional budget of $38,748 for the pool slide capital project and direct administration to complete the project in 2024 or as soon as possible. Is there any further discussion? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question. Councillors, please vote now. And that motion is carried unanimously. And they might not know it yet, but there's a lot of happy kids in Hinton today. And adults. Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Council, is there anything further for item 6.3 of the agenda this evening? Seeing nothing, we'll move to item 6.4, nuisance bylaw number 1185, second and third reading. Mr. McLaughlin.
Thank you, and I will ask Magda Bodro, our Director of Protector Services, to present this.
Thank you, Mr. McLaughlin. Chief DeBodrop.
Good afternoon, Your Worship and members of council. Before you tonight is the first of two items, actually. The first being item 6.4, the nuisance bylaw 1185, appearing for second and, if council desires, third reading. Related to the same issue, but separate, is item 6.5, the Parks bylaw number 1184, which received first reading in January 2024, which will be dealt with after this item. The draft Parks bylaw 1184 was introduced and established to close hours for the parks and public spaces. After consultation with stakeholders and discussions with council, there were significant challenges identified for our residents with imposing closed hours in public spaces, which limits their use after dark. Administration then suggested redrafting the nuisance bylaw to address the undesirable activities in our parks and open spaces and provide a mechanism for police and peace officers to evict individuals from the parks and open spaces should the activity they are engaged in is causing any form of nuisance or a disturbance. It is also the intent of administration that when the nuisance bylaw 1185 is passed, that nuisance bylaw 1101 and the curfew bylaw number 947 would be repealed. With that, council, I think I'll stop there and answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Chief DeBoudrop. Counselor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have a quick question. We had a resident that asked the question in regards to the opening, closing to sunrise and sunset, being perplexing because of the different seasons, of course. But my understanding of that is it's discretionary of what those areas are being used for. If they're used past it, or can you elaborate on that for us? Because it is going to change the times it opens and closes with the changes of seasons.
Chief DeBoudrop.
Through the chair, thank you for that question. Actually, that would be addressed in the Parks Bylaw 1184, which is the next item on the agenda.
Okay.
In the nuisance bylaw, there is no hours of operation or closed identified. What we're addressing is the activities. So if there's an activity that's taking place in a public space or on town land, the RCMP have mechanism and they have cause to stop the activity and ask people to move along or lay charges. And if it's an activity of the criminal code nature, they already have the criminal code that they could lay charges there.
Okay, my apologies. I guess I thought that was part of this as well, but okay, thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Haas. Thank you, Chief DeBoudrop. Counselor Magoon.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Chief, really to sum it up is that the bylaw that we're looking at right now, the second and third reading of the nuisance bylaw number 1185, it deals with the problematic behaviors, and it renders moot the need to address times. And perhaps for those people who might be watching at home, the reason why that second bylaw, the Parks Bylaw number 1184, is up on the agenda is effectively so that council can get rid of it, and that this is the bylaw that will sort of take place and sort of deal with all those problematic behaviors that we saw in the first place.
Chief DeBoudrop.
Through the chair, that is absolutely correct. We're keeping these two items completely separate.
Thank you, Chief DeBoudrop. Counselor Taylor.
2.5 excessive noise. How's that determined?
Chief DeBoudrop.
The dog left outside for a prolonged period of time barking with the owner gone to work what's excessive noise? How do we determine that? Is that the bylaw officer discretion?
Through the chair, to answer that, the noise component of nuisance bylaw is very subjective. If it causes a disturbance to the receiver of that noise, the neighbor, if it's a nuisance to them, that is defined as a nuisance. So we put a stop to it. So your example of a barking dog, we deal with that. We have a process in place. We have for several years through the nuisance bylaw to deal with barking dogs and noise, construction noise after a certain hour of the day.
Okay.
That's always been in place and has not changed with this rendition of the bylaw.
Okay.
Thank you, Chief DeBoudrop. Thank you, Counselor Taylor. Counselor Magoon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And then Chief, one last question. Just for, again, citizens who might not know, the expectation is that if we have bylaw enforcement on duty during the regular day, obviously this is something that, is within their purview to enforce. But that being said, if it's after hours, then the regular practices that our RCMP are fully able to and will enforce the existing bylaws on weekends, after hours, et cetera, et cetera.
Chief DeBoudrop.
Through the chair, that is correct. After hours, when there's no municipal enforcement on duty, the RCMP can enforce our town bylaws.
Thank you, Chief DeBoudrop. Thank you, Counselor Magoon. Counselor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move the council give second reading to the nuisance bylaw number 1185 as presented. And if I can just quickly speak to that, we were asked by community partners, RCMP, to take a look at this, give them more tools to deal with some of these issues, and I think this covers that. I am also happy with the fact that with our discussion in committee of the whole, these different camps that are around our community that are causing a nuisance, even though they're not on our land, but they're causing a nuisance to the community, may also give some more leverage to our provincial partners to deal with those more quickly. So I think that that's really asset to our community for those reasons. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hawes. Council, the motion on the floor is the council give second reading to nuisance bylaw number 1185 as presented. Councillor Taylor.
2.6 graffiti. The words with or without. Was the words with put there deliberately? And why?
Chief DeBodrap.
Through the chair, yes, that is deliberate wording. You could have an owner of a property put offensive graffiti on their property, and we could request that it be removed.
Okay.
Follow up, Councillor Taylor.
No, so regular graffiti, like a nice picture, would be fine. I could get a artist to paint a beautiful picture on the side of my house and that'd be fine.
Chief DeBodrap.
Through the chair, and I'm not being flippant, but I think to do it, put a mural or something very nice on your property would require a development permit.
Oh,
Thank you, Chief DeBodrap.
right.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Council, any further discussion? The motion on the floor is the council give second reading of nuisance bylaw number 1185 as presented. And we'll call the question. Councillors, please vote now. Thank you, Councillor Stashik voting by hand in favor, and that motion is carried unanimously. Love technology. Any councillors interested in making a motion for third reading? Councillor Race.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to move that council give third reading to nuisance bylaw number 1185 as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Race. Would you like to speak to it? Thank you, Council. The motion on the floor is the council give third reading of nuisance bylaw number 1185 as presented. Councillor Taylor.
Asking our citizens to cut their grass at least twice per year. Is that a standard that we apply to ourselves?
Mr. McLaughlin.
Through the chair to council, ask Deborah Juke to answer this one as Director of Community Services.
Thank you, Mr. McLaughlin. Ms. Juke.
Thank you, and through the chair to the rest of council, we far exceed that standard. That standard is introduced as a way to ensure that grass is cut more than once a year or not at all. And grass that's taller than 6 months of growth will allow you is going to make a pretty big mess when it does get cut. Generally speaking, rough areas are different, but primarily that's to ensure that weeds don't go to seed.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Juke. Thank you, Councillor Taylor. As council, the motion on the floor is the council give third reading to nuisance bylaw number 1185 as presented. Any further discussion? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question. Councillors, please vote now. Councillor Stashik in favor by hand, and that motion is carried. Is it carried unanimously? I had all 7 of us and now I've only got 6 of us. Councillor Taylor, are you in favor?
I have myself down to vote yes.
Excellent. We might be doing this again. We've got it. Did that get recorded as unanimous, Secretary? Excellent.
It did. So
Just didn't pop up for me correctly. Thank you. That motion is carried unanimously. Councillor Ostashik.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to ask for a short recess so I can figure out what's going on. I signed out-
Absolutely.
I
No,
signed
no
out
more
and signed
further
back in,
explanation
and it
needed.
still didn't work.
Council is going to take a 5 to 10 minute recess and allow all the children in town to rejoice at the end of the curfew bylaw.
The battle of the 19th.